Hey everyone, welcome to episode 116 of the Ceres podcast. I'm your host Stelios and the founder and director of Ceres Pure Food Innovation. As we get closer to Christmas, we have noticed an upswing in sales, which is pretty normal for this time of year. We expect it to drop off in January, as does everyone else. Thing is, it's just a little tricky getting some of the stuff, but don't worry, you keep ordering. We'll just try and make sure that it's there. You may notice that some of our packaging is different. It has been increasingly difficult to source the same packaging as the previous years, let's say, but it's expected with everything that's happening. So a couple of things that have probably changed temporarily is that some of our curry sauce is coming out in bags instead of buckets. It's exactly the same inside, and we are designing some new batter bags. Obviously, last year we designed new natural batter bags, and now the natural gold and the Yorkshire is following suit. So if we run out, they'll just go into plain bags. It's not a big deal. For us, the big deal is keeping what's inside the packaging great. That's where 110% of our focus is, making sure that the product inside, whatever it is, doesn't matter, curry, gravy, fish cake mix, pan cleaner, potato prep, we want it to be perfect for you. So that's our goal. So bear with us. Don't worry too much about the packaging. It ends up in the bin anyway. Our goal, like I said, is to make sure that what's inside is good, not great. So if you're a regular listener, you may think that some of these updates are repetitive, but I think it's best that we keep on top of updates in case someone misses them. You should feel sorry for me, really, because I have to keep saying it. But the fact is, if I don't say an update once, someone's going to listen or not listen and think, oh, I didn't hear about this, and then I get it in the neck too. But I just want to keep everybody informed on all of our channels. So our special offer this month for our website is 20% off Ceres Gravy Mix. Just log on to our website, pop in gravy into your basket, use the code November 2021. It's always best to be on our mailing list because you can keep up to date with monthly offers. So for me, just be on our mailing list. We don't spam people. We just probably get one, maximum 2 emails a month if something goes down and we need to inform of people of what's going on. But yeah, it's dead easy. The links will be in our show notes, so just click down there and off you go. As you may have noticed, we've started slotting Ceres adverts at the beginning of the podcast. We will never insert ads in the middle to break the conversation. It is a Ceres podcast. We should use it to really plug what we do, so we do. So let's talk gluten-free batter for a moment. In my mind, not all gluten-free batters are the same. It's just a fact. Did you know that gluten has a technical use in batter? It helps stabilize the carbon dioxide in liquid, which gives you a really crisp batter time after time. It's the same with gluten in bread. It forms a structure, and the gas that expands, it sort of stays within the bread. So for us, when we started developing the Ceres gluten-free batter, we knew straight away that we had to match the functionality of our popular wheat-based batters like the natural or natural gold or the Yorkshire. If you want to put a gluten-free option on the menu, then look no further. It's used by some of the best operators in the business. This isn't a race to the bottom when it comes to price and ingredients. Like everything we do at Ceres, our goal is to give you consistency. We love the gluten-free batter, and yes, I know, because I'm biased and it is a Ceres podcast, but I love it because it's crisp and well seasoned. You can have confidence in the batter as it contains no artificial colourings, no artificial flavourings, and is allergen-free. So, get your gluten-free batter today from worldofceres.com/shop or visit one of our great wholesalers and get it from them. Jamie Sargent is our guest for today. Jamie is a leading digital entrepreneur, creative industries influencer, and university lecturer. He's a global thinker. He's got an ability to spot and incubate raw talent, and he knows how to identify potential markets. And this isn't the first business he's done that's in the digital space, but Crowd is global, and that's what's different between this company and his previous company. I've been using Crowd for a few years, and they were introduced to me by a friend of mine, and they are complete specialists. They are professional. They know everything about the web space and the social media space. So it was really good to talk to Jamie. I know it's not a hospitality podcast, But I have always said that we will be talking to people that actually make hospitality happen. And if we go one step further, Jamie at Crowd and his team make not just hospitality happen, but business happen, internet happen, commerce happen. And actually, all of this happens online now. Even if someone doesn't have a website, which is really rare, there is a website somewhere functioning and making someone's business work or commerce work, or there's a server farm somewhere, and Jamie is well placed to tell us a little bit about that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with Jamie. Welcome to the podcast, Jamie. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me, Stelios. I'm doing very well, thank you. Very well.
Good. Yeah, I could tell this is going to be a good one. We've already started on loads of good things. So I was anxious to get this podcast started because I think sometimes we could talk about so much and think, oh, we're not recording. So your industry, for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about Crowd and yourself. Let's start there.
Okay, so Crowd is a global marketing agency, and what we do is we typically help brands, businesses, and even governments into new markets. So we have offices in San Francisco, in New York, London, Bournemouth, Amsterdam, Madrid, Dubai, Chengdu, and Shenzhen in China, and most recently Sydney. So with our network, we've got there's about 55 of us in total. But I think the thing that I'm most proud of is we have over 23 different nationalities working for us, and we speak about 16 different languages. So a lot of what we do is in multiple languages across multiple territories, and really try and understand the culture of the audience that we're approaching on behalf of our clients. So that ranges everything from campaigns at the moment that would be sort of across multiple channels, so radio, out of home, digital marketing, and then really ranging from sort of those really big campaigns to then helping local businesses around each of those offices. So we've been in business now for 9 years, and my personal background is I started working in advertising at the age of 16. And then after a period of time of working as an illustrator, I started a digital agency in 1999, so very much at the forefront of everything digital. It was what excited me about it was I was able to take my illustration skills and then apply them to sort of animation. And I think I designed my first website in 1997. So it was fairly at the forefront of everything digital. I then built an agency here in the UK over a period of time from 99, and then sold that in 2012 because I wanted to build something more global, and I saw the opportunity to help brands not just here in the UK, but actually help them penetrate into further foreign markets.
Wow. Well, I guess when you first started, that global sort of thinking was a big thing, whereas now, I guess the global world has shrunk a little bit to some degree. It doesn't take away any expertise or effort on your behalf, but it is more possible, isn't it?
Absolutely. You can be a small business based in a small town in the UK and be selling your services, your products all over the world. And I think the appetite for the UK as well, it is seen as a creative hub, a creative hotspot. So, as part of what I do as well, I'm a Department of International Trade ambassador. So that is also helping businesses think and how they can get into new markets. And
Mm. Well, it's interesting you mentioned the DIT because I actually know you through two people. Obviously, I got introduced to you through Fred Capel in Bournemouth, Shay Fred. And then my sister in law also works for DIT.
yeah,
So it's like it is a small world, and they really love what you're doing and how you're exporting. Because I thought in my mind is that in my mind, DIT exports products, or at least companies, or helps companies export products, whereas you're exporting expertise, and there's a very big difference there, expertise and services as opposed to physical widgets. So that yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe quite a few people, don't realise that the demand for sort of our expertise, and I think when you combine that with people on the ground in where we have offices at least, it then gives you this opportunity to really export as much as you possibly can.
Wow. Do you think the UK is still at the forefront of this service, this type of business?
Absolutely. I think from a digital perspective, we are seen as innovators, and I've said this to people in the past. I honestly think that I've probably sold services off the back of the Rolling Stones, because we are seen as a creative. If you think about us from a scale perspective, at least, then we have done some pretty incredible things in the past. And from a digital perspective, there's a lot of innovation that happens in the UK, and there's also a lot of support from the government, with R&D tax credits. So th- th- that is one thing that I do believe we are doing well, and we are looked upon, as innovators.
Mm,
I've been in pitches in San Francisco where we're up against the very best of Silicon Valley's agencies, and we've won them because I think we bring a sort of a unique perspective to digital marketing and innovation.
mm. Now, some listeners might be thinking, what does this have to do with hospitality, fish and chips, you name it, food? But in my mind, the whole point of the Ceres podcast and what I try to bring is different people that make hospitality happen. And I think we've done a podcast a year ago, a similar thing, talking about digital. And one thing that I've always been trying to think of lately is the industry changes so fast. And we've just had COVID, and we're still in COVID to some degree. Hopefully, we're 90% through it. We like to think optimistically. How has that changed the digital landscape in your mind? Has it accelerated anything that was maybe bubbling away at the surface before?
Yeah, I think one of the things it's really accelerated is the ability to run a global business from a spare bedroom. It's but prior to this, I was spending my time flying around the world to the various different meetings and offices. And if you think about how inefficient that is, I'd be waiting in someone's reception, waiting for the big boss to finally wait and see me. Now, what I do is I sit here over Zoom, and when they join, I can chat. In the meantime, I can just work. So, from an efficiency standpoint, I think things have uh, really sort of sped up. Now, there's a concern with that in regards to sort of burnout, because I think a lot of people worked. Uh, it was an incredibly unusual situation to try and get to grips with, and for me included, it's you really, each of the countries went through lockdown at different times, and so we had different challenges across the board, and at different times. But what it has done, I think, is it's enabled people to actually, particularly if they're in the service industry, and I mean, I don't know what the facts are, but I would imagine that takeaways have just exploded. And
Mm,
speaking to some of our clients that are in the hospitality sector, then I think that side of their business has really grown.
mm,
And if they can then apply technology to that side of their business, and really make it efficient, then there's some of my clients have done incredibly well.
Mm.
So
I think so too. I think anecdotally, obviously, we've not got the full data set, but talking to the people that I serve, I would say that the first probably 4 to 8 weeks of the lockdown was terrifying, scary. They didn't know what to do. And then everything started to play out. People started to get bored or worried about the lack of business and then thought, no, I'm going to open. Then they open and they've got click and collect systems or delivery systems or whatever it may be that digitize the process because people weren't coming through the door physically. And I think a lot of people have had a stonking year because restaurants were closed. Well, stonking, let's say 12 months, because it wasn't a year as such. It was over 12 months, maybe 14 months. And you think restaurants were closed, hotels were closed. So, bars were closed. So when people thought about treating themselves, they've been working all week, they were getting takeaways. And so I think from the takeaway side, and obviously restaurants reopened and they've done well, I think, as well. I don't think they've been quiet. I think people have probably said, you know what, we've eaten at home enough. And I think now there's that balance. I think there's that balance of eating at home really well in the week and treating themselves. I think what probably has suffered in some ways is maybe the lunchtime trades because people are working from home rather than offices. They're not going to Greg's or whatever, or lunch with friends. So I think that's probably suffered somewhat. But other than that, I think trade is strong on the whole.
yeah, we've seen it for the clients that we service, and you've had a huge rise in the likes of Uber Eats, Deliveroos, and those businesses that have got the framework, the technology to serve the quantity of orders. So I think yeah, from that side of it, I think it's been good. But as like you say, I don't have the exact figures,
No, no, of
but
course.
I'd be very interested to see them.
Well, I think in due course it will all start to, once the analysts start playing at it and getting all the information. But I think anecdotally, it's obvious what's happened. I think, one thing we're seeing a lot in our industry is a lot of online systems where, you'd be implementing this for some of your clients is, so people can go on the website, put an order in and get it delivered or collected. And I do think, is that the future? Again, I'm hearing mixed signals. I'm hearing some people saying they don't, see it as a growth factor anymore. And I see others saying, oh no, it's definitely a big part of my business. So again, time will tell. I do think that the new generation of customers coming through almost insist on this sort of customer service. Is there no app? Even if it's a local store, why can't I log onto your website and order something?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, do you see any data that's sort of supporting that? That sort of level of the next generation of buyers that want that digital service.
Absolutely. What's really interesting is actually we get insights into obviously multiple territories. So when you look at places like China, when you look at places like Dubai, you they order everything on their mobile, and it's delivered. So I mean, from a sustainability standpoint, there's a couple of questions there. I think the person that really gets sort of group orderings right and servicing particular buildings in one go, etc., that would be an interesting thing. But that to your point about the lunches, when you go to my office in Dubai, then everyone's ordering lunch, and it's all delivered. So it's, I guess, who can come up with the best offer that sort of tends to sway them, because that's traditionally not something that we would have seen, particularly in the UK offices. It's an unusual, you don't see deliveries at lunchtime, but in our other offices, then you really do, and it's yeah, pretty much every meal is ordered.
Wow.
So it's getting your marketing right in order to sort of to pull out that those customers, I think it is a really interesting place to be thinking about. And yeah, just when you do think about that, you sort of say, no, okay, so we're not ordering lunchtime trade has maybe gone down a little bit, but what about thinking about how you can change that? And, we all eat lunch. So why not think about specials, lunchtime specials and how you might be able um, to sort of to mold your product offering to appeal to that audience?
I think, especially with the new generation of consumer, you know, they are used to being sold to online. But what is going to be a struggle to some degree is how they balance their ethics and sustainability with where they purchase from. Because I think the paradox is that, I've done it. I'm not blaming them. Is that we all want to do better, and then I order off Amazon. And I'm sure Amazon's fine. I'm sure they do very well, like in terms of sustainability and ethics. But I'm also aware that if I probably trotted on my own down the street, I would have got it for probably £1 cheaper, and I would have helped a local business too. So I do think that there is always going to be these entanglements, almost, especially for the new generation, because they're so what's the word, ethic orientated, aren't they? And I know we're going to talk about sustainability at some point, but they are so ethically minded.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that, I think people are missing a trick somewhat by not really pushing that as part of their marketing message. So, at the moment, as I mentioned before, we're probably 60% of what's in our studio, 60, maybe even 70% has some sort of association with sustainability and how we're helping, businesses, brands, and even governments tell that story so as it can appeal to that audience. And we've got a fascinating client at the moment in the US called Footprint, that they make biodegradable, sustainable, plant-based food packaging. So they make bowls, microwave bowls, and ready meals, and they supply some of the larger US retailers. And they have a solution, which is plant-based, and it perfectly good, and they're absolutely, they can't make enough. They're absolutely, stacked with orders. So, I feel that because no one wants another plastic another plastic takeaway container in their house. I know that we did order takeaways, but I don't like it when they come in the plastic cases. And
Mm.
there are some takeaway retailers that are doing it right. Take Shea Fred. He's absolutely, all of his stuff is focused around sustainability, and I think that's one of the reasons why there's always a queue outside his shop.
Mm. Yeah, I don't understand how there's always a queue around this shop. You can't park anywhere in Westbourne. And that's what makes it even more incredible.
Since I think it was since about sort of 89, there's been a queue
Oh, really?
outside his shop.
Wow.
It's absolutely incredible. Uh, yeah, there is always a queue outside.
Wow. That's impressive. I think
Mm.
the downside, I think for fish and chips, if we look at fish and chips solely, the perfect packaging doesn't exist at the moment. And I think because unlike pizza, pizza can go in a cardboard box. It doesn't actually deteriorate over the journey, whereas fish and chips can deteriorate if the steam attacks it. It gets sweaty, not crispy, so it can. So I do think the packaging is definitely better, but I don't know. I wonder where we're moving towards, and I think the problem is in the UK as well, and it's not any operator's fault. Is that there's a few laws and legislations that forbid food packaging. Anything that's had food in it, it can't be what is it? It can't be recycled, and it can't go to landfill. It has to go to an incinerator, and I think that goes back to like the BSE days, because I think there was some, the virus from BSE was being traipsed around in the food cycle, and I think what they're saying is, well, if it gets incinerated, then it's done.
Mm.
And I sort of get that point, but I think we're still a way off from incinerators being 100% clean. So it's always a tricky thing. I think the operator can literally try and do the best they can, but
Mm.
that's as far as it goes. And then it falls into what's happening nationally. And again, I think we're trying, but one step at a time. But I guess the operator can only do what they can do in their power, can't they?
Absolutely. I mean, there's another potential there for that. There are some incredibly bright people in the UK, and some of the programs that we're running at the moment called Open Innovation. And basically, the concept of open innovation is you set a challenge. So there's been a number of these set globally, and we're working on one at the moment for Footprint, which is focused around kids and football stadiums. So, and the challenge is to try and come up with a plastic-free football stadium.
Wow.
So, we're looking at this campaign, and we're looking at kids, and in the hope that a child's mind is, when I say kids up to 16, a child's mind is they haven't been they haven't been pushed down, they haven't been told that they can't do it. So you do typically get some of these incredibly out there ideas, and what we're looking at doing is combining those with some of the scientists at Footprint to see if they can produce some better solutions. So people. There's a really good case study, actually. Arsenal, I believe. I think it was something like 25,000 on a big game day. 25,000 plastic, pint glasses were being used and straight into landfill. So what they've done is they've worked with a brewery to create a reusable glass, not glass, plastic, a reusable that can also be then kept as a souvenir. So things like that, that is innovation. Now, whether or not that's going to, I'm not up to speed with the laws around food packaging, but I feel that there might be, someone in the industry might want to sort of run a program like that just to see what comes back. And it might be, a team of scientists that solve the problem, or it might be someone sat at home that does as well. And there's some really good case studies of how open innovation has really helped. Has really helped, brands and governments. And interestingly, on the sort of catering thing, we once ran a program for Kenwood, and what we were looking at doing for Kenwood was to use open innovation to try and look at new product development. Because one of their challenges with things like Kickstarter, where someone can come up with an idea, someone funds it, and it's in market within 12 months.
Wow.
Whereas the sort of more traditional companies it's a 3-year cycle. So we ran a program for them, and it was called the Cutting Edge. And through that process, there are a number of patents that they managed to acquire, and we invited people in and created an open forum of discussion where good ideas got voted up, and other ideas just sort of naturally went down. And there was there was some really interesting revelations that came out of that, and someone within the Cutting Edge managed to solve an age-old problem. I can't actually, because it's all under NDA, I can't say what it was, but it was incredible. So that sort of open innovation is potentially another way to go. And I'm not sure within the within the food packaging space, whether that could be an interesting route forward for one of the bigger brands.
I think one of the difficulties with the takeaway industry, and specifically, is that the customers take the packaging home, whereas anywhere else, like let's say hospitality venues and so on, the packaging stays there. So if you was to, let's say, use Starbucks, they have a closed loop system. You stay in there, the coffee cup stays there. So they can then, and McDonald's, especially McDonald's, any packaging that goes through a McDonald's system gets segregated and then straight away gets recycled or taken apart. And they've got this closed loop system. But I think our the general takeaway industry that have very loose packaging requirements, it sort of just gets out of the system, and it's just going to end up in an incinerator. Um, there is some technology that's coming on board. I've seen some technology where I don't want to say burn, but they treat the plastic in a way, any plastic, and it basically converts to hydrogen, and
Mm,
then that'll be fueling power and so on. So, and that is the future, I think, to some degree. But yeah, it's a shame. But no, what you're saying, it sounds really good. If you can get outside people to come in and have a look at it with a fresh set of eyes
mm,
and look at the causes, they might,
mm.
even if takeaway said, look, bring back your packaging. Not that we're going to reuse it, but we can dispose of it and we'll give you a discount on your next order. But I guess something needs to, a system
Yeah.
needs to be put in place so they know what to do with it. Because yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things about the pandemic is typically innovation only happens when things go wrong.
Mm,
So when everything's going well, everybody's like more of that, more of
yeah.
that, more of that. And but obviously the with the pandemic, a lot of industries went wrong. So maybe this is an opportunity to really look at it and think about, how this might be be able to be improved, and to your point, that just returning the packaging. So imagine if there was a takeaway option that you could wash and then give back. uh, that might be something that discounted off your next order,
I
because
do, yeah, I do think we're going back. We're probably going to end up going back to like the days when we used to get milk delivered by the milkman, and not a plastic, bottle. It's going to be a glass bottle. We wash it,
yeah.
put it back outside, and I do. And I wonder if it's going to be a lot of that with everything. In Bristol, my sister-in-law lives in Bristol, and we went to a shop, and it was a packaging-free shop. You
Mm,
know, if you wanted, I don't know, like cornflakes for argument's sake, you took a receptacle to put it in. You weigh it first, put in your cornflakes, weigh it again, and obviously that's what you pay. And I was thinking to myself, right, they're not as popular yet, but is this what we're going to see the likes of Tesco do, Waitrose do, and so on? One day something's
yeah,
going.
I really do hope so. And the thing about the business I mentioned earlier, Footprint, they have a single goal, and what I felt was fascinating, and why I absolutely love them as a business is their single goal is a plastic free supermarket. So be that plant based packaging, or be that people actually taking in, we don't need all of the plastic, but it is insane the amount of waste from a supermarket. And these, the Tesco's, and the sort of the major supermarkets. I think it's for them somewhat to sort of lead this, or at least start to offer an area of the shopping experience that could be, like the packaging free shop that you mentioned in Bristol. There's one in Westbourne called Almond and Co. as well, that exactly the same. And if you don't have a container with you, then they have containers that other people have brought in that you can take as well. But what it is, it's just not creating new ones all the time.
Yeah, something's got to give. You can't constantly just keep making this stuff. But like, and I think also it's how it was being disposed of. Yeah, I'm a big fan of reusable plastic. Keep using it and using it. However, if something is, sometimes we see stuff that isn't fit for purpose for single use. So and especially like we try and avoid paper bags that are lined with plastic because
Mm,
you can't tear them apart, so you can't recycle. So, for example, our batter bags, we don't have a plastic lining because
mm,
um, we. So sometimes there's two options, but you want a lining to stop moisture ingress. What we've done, we've technically just sprayed the inside the bag with a it's a moisture-proof wax, food grade wax, rather than plastic. Because if
mm.
you put plastic, you can't recycle that bag.
Well, the myth that I've learned through doing all the work from with Footprint is 9% of plastic gets recycled.
Wow.
So it's a lie. It's a complete lie, and it's not getting recycled.
Oh, 'cause
So
virgin plastic is so cheap.
Yeah, and the big, the big and sort of dangerous brands that are producing all of this, and I think the Coca-Colas of the world are probably the biggest. I mean, they've put it on us. They say you recycle it, you go and put it in that bin, but it's not. So they put the onus on the customer as opposed to
Yeah.
doing something about it themselves.
Yeah, and they're the ones that could influence change. Because
Yeah.
in one swoop, if they change something, they could be responsible and actually fix something. But I guess that would also make them responsible, and they don't want to be. you know.
Mm,
So yeah, it always makes me wonder. I always say these big companies do have a real big responsibility, but it's whether they want to, use it for good.
yeah.
One thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and again to sort of tap into your expertise, even if it is on a basic level, we supply, or at least our listeners, majority of small businesses, and many of them, might on a very basic level will say to me, "Do I need a website? Is a website a bit out of reach for me?" Maybe in the 2000s, I would have answered and said, "Well, no, it's a lot of money for a little small business like you." But in 2021, what's your answer to that?
Yeah, well, I think everybody, most definitely. I think, well, the answer is mobile first. So you need a well optimized website for mobile. Then, with having your own website, it gives you the ability to tell your story and to back up your story. Not only it gives gives you the opportunity to, in the industry of fish and chips, to people be able to quickly access an order, and then ideally order online for click and collect. So I think every business needs a website, and the reason for that is, well, obviously from an information standpoint, but you own the conversation, as opposed to having access, having a page on a social media channel. So ideally, we always advise to use social media to try and get people. They go onto a social media channel looking for something. It could be family, pictures of family, it could be pictures of friends, it could be. But then, if we can be disruptive in that space and then get them across to your website, then it's owned. So you then own that conversation. If you can then incentivize people to want to come directly back to your own website, then for me, that's the right way to do it. The social media channels are good, but they're becoming more expensive as well to advertise. So if you think about spending money on advertising for social media, I would be sort of advising that businesses have a think about what their audiences actually want, and then having that content on their website, making sure that they're optimized for search engines, and there was a sort of a big discussion around voice as well, about people searching for things with voice. It hasn't really quite got there yet. But if you think about how you might search for something with speech as opposed to with typing, then it's quite a different thing. So, and I don't think voice is going to be ready just yet
Mm.
either. So I wouldn't be putting a lot of investment into it at the moment. But certainly a well optimized website is going to be a mobile friendly website. We're seeing I mean, it's probably 75% now of traffic is mobile based.
Wow.
And think about how and it depends on what business that is, but we're seeing it's only going up. So I would say definitely, yeah, invest in a good website that clearly articulates your product offering.
I guess. I guess for me, I've always had a website because it always made sense to me, and I always thought that we need an online space to match the physical space, and I always think that it's like you say, it's a place to stamp your message without having 130 characters on Twitter, or a little box to put your impressum on Facebook. Like, this is something where you can say, here's what I do or what we do. And I guess you're right. You just keep people coming back there, whether it's an online store or a news feed. I think that it's important that people get used to coming to your place of residence, even if online. And also more important now, because what we were saying earlier, it is a digital world. People don't
Mm,
necessarily want to walk to your physical space, you know.
mm,
So, but I just think that my my fear is that if you're only on social media, um, what if tomorrow you're in a business that people don't, that governments or people have sort of cancelled? So for example, a few years ago, if you had a marijuana business, it would have been pretty much frowned upon, illegal. Well, you would have you was a drug dealer, a few
yeah.
years ago. Whereas now it's hip and fresh, but there's still a bit of there's some countries that would outlaw it. So if there's that ambiguity, Facebook's going to say, you know what, we're going to just say no, you're not allowed to do this. And I remember about a year ago, a friend of mine's a fishmonger, and on Instagram he would put photos of fish, and you'd get this warning that said, um, oh, graphic scenes. So you click on it and it just shows fish on the display, but it was dead. And basically, vegans were reporting it as graphic. So you could see how where social media, if for whatever reason they're I don't want to say the word woke, but if they're ahead of public discourse, let's say, they are going to choose a very safe agenda, and your business could be at risk. So if tomorrow, you know, Hawksmoor sells steak, if, for example, 100 people go after them on Facebook or Instagram and says, "Oh, this is graphic content," the algorithm's not going to say, "Oh no, it's fine." They're just going to say we've had 100 complaints. So for me, that's why I would always have my own space that I can control.
Absolutely, and I think the key is to think about why someone might want to come to your website. What is it that you can give them that that's going to add value, and sort of membership type of type of sort of programs, I think, could be very interesting. So is there a way of us profiling a particular customer, and the more takeaways that they order, or the more times they visit your restaurant, they're rewarded, with, it could be discounts, or it could be it could be for, sort of every tenth meal is free. They actually work. These solutions do actually work. So, and to your point, I think then you own it, and you can do with it what you want. But you do need to come up with a reason for why people need to return. Why is it better to book directly with the brand, rather than through something like a third party Deliveroo, or Uber Eats, or one of those platforms.
I think that's one thing that we're sort of seeing in the industry at the moment, is that some people that maybe aren't technologically savvy or able, they've just gone and got whether it's Uber, Deliveroo, and Just Eat, and that's probably a little bit more simpler, because I guess those companies would set you up and get you up to speed.
Yeah.
The difference is that now they're almost like a business partner. You've got to share that profit, and that's understandable from their point of view. Um, However, you don't have that flexibility of doing it on your own. So I guess, like you're saying, if you wanted to say you had all of those systems, including your own, how would you convert that customer to coming direct? And that would essentially be better value, or
Mm.
or competitions, or discounts, or loyalty schemes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know whether there are rules around, having links to your own property. So, the thing that those sites have got is traffic. So they've got hungry customers looking for, what is potentially your product. But you are in charge of how you send that product out, and maybe there's a next time come to direct type of messaging. I'm not sure how well that would go down with them, but there is that as a possibility, turning them from using those channels much in the same way that people did with eBay. You would use eBay as a teaser. So you would do a loss leader product on eBay just to get them across to your website where you've got a lot more product. So there's potentially that type of approach.
Yeah,
that could be worked.
Makes complete sense. I think that has got to be the long-term goal, and hotels do it all the time. I was looking at a Radisson hotel the other day, and I think it went through Booking.com initially, and then I don't know where it was that I saw it, and I just went over to Radisson and ordered it direct, and it was a bit cheaper. And you think, well, I think this is the key. It's how can you offer value, and customers want value. Whether they're and I think the common misconception is that people think there's some consumers that don't want value, but I believe that every purchase, whether it's I don't know, a £1 product or a £150,000 Aston Martin, that consumer wants perceived value. No one wants to be mugged off in any, let's face it. Is there any country that you sort of work in or deal with where you really think they're ahead of the game on digital?
Yeah, I think the culture in Dubai is from a food ordering perspective, is I've never seen anything like it. It is literally everybody orders takeaways, and it's the restaurants that are really driving those promotions that are winning. And so I would say that is very much in the culture of certainly within the expat community within Dubai. So a lot of people, because I guess it's people are there, they're there to make money, and they're working hard. Maybe they don't have time to cook, but what I see over there is incredible in regards to how many people order everything online. So I was on a conversation with one of my team members last week, and he said, "Wait a minute, I've just got a delivery, and it's cough mixture."
Oh,
and I said, "What? You've just had cough mixture delivered to your door because you got a cough?" Yeah, and it didn't seem unnatural for me. That seems, I would go out at lunchtime and go to Boots. I would never think about having a thing of cough mixture delivered to my door. So I don't. That's I see that, and also some of the marketing by not only the delivery, the named brands, but some of the sort of the challenger brands that are coming in with some really sort of innovative marketing.
Wow, it's interesting, isn't it, that the power of convenience. That cough mixture may have cost him more, but he didn't have to leave his house or flat or apartment or whatever it may be. But he was happy to make that trade off, and he was obviously too busy to go out and get it. And actually, he had a cough, so chances are he didn't want to spread it. So, do you think China is like they rumor that it's the most ahead of the game? Is it? You see a lot of countries.
China is, and I was just about to say, then when you look at China, it's next level. So, in China, you go up to a vending machine at a train station and you pay for things with your eyes. So you literally retina scans and then press the number. It comes straight off of your WeChat account and it's done. So that is efficiency and to a certain degree control, because the people don't mind the government having the data and feel confident that they're not going to be using it in a way that they don't want it to be used. So yeah, China, but that's everything from having food delivered to your hotel room. It's a whole next level. It is very. And I think sometimes that comes down to, I spent a long time in Hong Kong and my kitchen was probably the size of a shoebox.
Yeah.
So, and buying food in wasn't incredibly expensive. In the UK now, I mean, a takeaway, you're getting into, at least in my household, you're getting into sort of, the same cost as going out.
Yeah.
And let's face it, the experience, as much as I love the convenience and at the moment, the sort of safety of my own home, it's the experience is, you can't compare them.
No, for me, if I was, then I say this to the wife all the time. I don't like takeaways. I really don't. And I was brought up in them. But for me, I would rather spend that money going to a restaurant.
Yeah.
I want the experience of eating out. I think, I've got 2 young kids. I would rather get them out the house and go either eat at home normally with cooked food that we've done,
Yes.
or go out as an experience. And that way there's something else to talk about and expose them to different foods. Whereas I think for me, takeaway just falls into your comfort zone again. You don't try different things. You always get the same thing. So, but I think you're right. If I'm going to spend that money, I would rather eat out and let them do everything for me rather than
Yeah,
I pay.
exactly. And, the kitchen's going to be clean when you come home.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
No, actually, I've still got 2 young kids, so it won't be. So.
yeah, no, no. But the interesting thing there is I've got two, well, it's 16 and 12, and if I say, right, let's order a takeaway, one of them will say, well, I want pizza, and the other one will say, I want Chinese. And then you have this whole, in their minds, that's absolutely fine. In mine, I'm not ordering from two
No,
different.
I'm the same as you.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm of the generation where, I know it sounds old, but everyone's eating the same sort of thing, you know. So the first thing we're doing when we're thinking of what restaurant to go to is, are we all eating the same thing or at least similar thing, And yeah, pretty much that's our goal, But yeah, I can't get my head around, I don't know, ordering burgers with fish and chips with pizza. For me, yeah.
Mm.
But hey, that is probably where the next generation of people coming through are just so used to that versatility and choice.
Absolutely. And I think someone that, that manages to nail that sort of multi-restaurant ordering solution. I remember back in the 90s, I lived in Canada, and they had a system called Butlers en route, and you could order a starter from one restaurant, a main from another, and a pudding from another, which was an interesting thing.
I actually think the person that's probably going to do that is the guy that made Uber what it is. So you ever heard of Travis Kalanick?
I haven't.
Yeah.
But
he basically made Uber essentially what it is, and he's taken over like a big kitchen company that do like dark kitchens. And I actually think that's probably what's going to happen. I think it's called Kitchen Stars or something. And I think what you're probably going to end up seeing is them doing multiple foods under one roof, and they'll be delivered under different brands, but through the same drivers and riders. And, we'll probably see that very soon through cities if it isn't already happening without us knowing. But I think it's the rural areas where, I'm in a rural area, I guess. I'm not in a city. I'm in a small town in Warwickshire. So would we see that? Probably not. Maybe not for some time. Maybe there's a business there for me, but no, not really. So I think, do you see this level of the Chinese technology filtering into the UK, or are we still way off?
Yeah, we're still way off. And there's a good reason for that. It's around data. So, they are, they're a cashless society now, pretty much. So it's, I don't see that. I can see that particularly throughout the pandemic. I think, I personally don't carry cash any longer, because there's no need for me to. But it's, I would say that we're a way off as yet, and I don't think we will ever. There's so much data, within one ecosystem. The Chinese don't use the internet like we do. They have WeChat, which is an ecosystem, and within that ecosystem, you pay your bills, you book doctor's appointments, you consume. It has all the functionality of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. So it has all of that within one ecosystem. And it has, websites within that ecosystem. They're called mini programs.
It makes me wonder, do you think the public of the UK would be happy with the government knowing that they ordered, I don't know. Well, I guess our government knows to some degree, on a if they zoomed in further enough, if they had cause to, they'd know that me and you are chatting now, or especially if they had warrants and everything, they'd know these sort of things. But in China, people seem to be quite happy giving up all
Hmm.
this information to the government, or is it just lack of choice? And if you need to use these services, you will carry on.
Well, I think there's an element of
Yeah,
both. So, but I think that from my perception, and obviously it's an incredibly large nation, and I don't know, but the all of the colleagues that I have in China don't seem to mind them having the data, and to a point that we discussed very earlier, I think things are going to change a lot over the next little while, and that's around data. So, I was lucky enough to be at Web Summit just a couple of weeks ago, and so Tim Berners-Lee has a solution to this and data, where in effect you lend your data to particular people in order to get these services. So you own your data and you let people use it if you want to access what they've got, as opposed to the other way round as it is at the moment, where Facebook have got all of our data and they own it. If they wanted to use that picture that you put up of your of your newborn, then they can use that in an advertising campaign. So they own it.
well, I guess I think and I always say this to people, they don't realize that with Facebook, all the social media, I don't want to pick on one, all the social medias, you aren't the customer, you are the product.
Yeah.
So your data is what makes them money, and it's amazing that they can make money off me saying, hey, I'm stood in a queue at KFC, but hey, somehow they do. And I guess this probably moving forward is going to make it harder for especially small business to work online, because the legislation is going to get tighter and tighter, because there is abuse when it comes to cookies, GDPR, email sharing. I remember a year ago, someone emailed me a website form that they had received on their website, and all the digits were showing, the email was showing. And I was like, I know it's only to me and I'm not going to share that. But he was just showing me the comment at the bottom. And I was like, yeah, I get he should have really like smudged out all the names. But there's
Mm.
so many things that people aren't aware of. Like, I'm in a fish and chip group. And every now and then you see these funny receipts that people post, but they'll post the whole receipt and it will say the customer's name, their address, their phone number, their email address. And you think, well, like, and so and that's, I don't think they're doing it out of malice. It's just they didn't know. Like,
No.
so small business is really going to be on the back foot when it comes to GDPR, cookies, privacy. You know,
Absolutely, and I think that's all more the reason to offer your customers, a safe place. So, if decide to sign up to a mailing list for a local a local purveyor of food, then providing that they look after my data and they send me stuff that's relevant and offers on a Friday or whatever, then I think that's how there's massive value in that as well. And you know so again, if someone was looking to sell a takeaway shop or a fish and chip shop, and they had a database of 10,000 customers, that the value of that business is, there's a lot of value potentially in the location and where the actual physical shop is, but there's a lot more value in that database of 10,000 people,
yeah,
and providing that um, they're being cautious and making sure that they're following all the rules, then I think there's it's that reason to return. What are they doing what are they sending me that I'm going to find interesting?
yeah.
Um,
One of the things we do a mail shot once a month, and we say to people when they're signing up, here's what you're going to get. Here's how often
yeah,
we're going to contact you. We may contact you twice a month if we couldn't get it all in the first one, but there's always going to be an offer. We're giving you something for participating. And also, if you want to unsubscribe, it's right at the bottom,
yeah,
and we've had this mailing list now for about 8 years, but we've only now the last couple of years since we've been doing the online store have we been really utilizing it properly. But every maybe 24 months, we'll send out a mail shot saying, if you'd like to unsubscribe, now's the time. And well, not that now's the time, but it's just an encouragement, because
Yeah,
I actually think that if you've got people on your mailing list that don't want to be on it, it actually makes for a pretty bad mailing list. So
yeah,
I always encourage people, if they want to leave, please do. And when I think the last time we did it was when the GDPR double opt-in was coming in, we used that as an excuse rather than encouraging people to stay. We encourage them to leave, and that might sound
yeah,
silly, but it's because I just see is if people roll their eyes every time they get an email from you,
yeah. The
they're not gonna buy
brand
anything, are
perception.
they? They're not
No,
gonna buy anything. They're just like, "Oh, here we go again." So for me, I always encourage those people that don't want to engage with us. That's fine. They can. I
mm,
really, there's no animosity at all. They can go. Like, I don't want to hold anybody hostage. That's not how business is conducted in my eyes.
no. And another way that people can use those mailing lists is asking their customers what they want.
Mm,
So, how can we make our business better?
yeah,
What is it that that you want? What should we have on our menu that is currently lacking?
yeah,
And that's invaluable data.
yeah. No, definitely, definitely. It's so true. One thing I want to touch on before we wrap this up is you guys. One of your main priorities at Crowd is sort of helping your customers talk about sustainability a bit more. How important do you see that? And how are you going about informing their customers about sustainability?
Well, I think just with the current landscape as it is, it's and what with the COP26 just happening, it's very much at the forefront of everyone's minds, and a business needs to be working in a sustainable way. So if they are using plastic packaging, what are they doing to offset that? And it's really working with the customers to better understand what they are doing as a business, and this plays into so many factors. So from an employability brand, do you want to work with a company that is making the world better or making the world worse? So I think there's that, and the youth, they care. As to your point earlier. So, do you want to work with a business that is really making a difference, or trying to make a difference? And so, what we do is typically work with our clients and really understand what their business actually is, and how we think that by adding in some programs they can become better. How are they dealing with recruitment? How are they dealing um, with straight up sort of sustainability goals? What's their purpose? How are they? And I think throughout the pandemic, this has really come to the surface of people want to work for companies that care, and it's so. What can we be doing to help communicate that and really tell that story in an engaging way, so as we're making them a better business.
I
Um,
was
and
I was
yeah,
going to touch on that actually, because as you were saying that, I was thinking about one of my nephews who when he's been looking for work, he's really into sustainability, and I actually think I'd go as far as saying that if he saw two identical jobs, but one company had the right branding and the right marketing and the right ethics, or at least even the perception, even if it was perceived to be better, he would probably go there. And I'd go as far as saying that many would join him. And I'd even add to that that many would probably take a slightly lesser wage to work in such a company too.
yeah, absolutely, and I think it's so important now. It has to be, not only does your product, your service, your uh, whatever it is that you're in effect selling, um, it's also your ethics behind it, and what you're doing to make the world a better place, or at least not making it
Worst
a
place.
worse place. So I think I think you're 100% right. And the businesses that we work with that we're helping, we are seeing massive increases. It's paying off, and and I think the main thing is that you're trying, and you're able to communicate how you're trying. Um, some of the businesses that we work with, they can't change overnight. It's not feasible. However, providing they're taking little steps forward, or in some cases huge steps forward, then that's a business that you want to be involved with. And I actually think, I mean, we're in the process of becoming a B corporation, and that's quite a big process to go through. It's taken us about 12 months so far of changing some of our policies to ensure that we're a better employer, and that we're doing our absolute best and this filters right down into asking our staff whether or not they're using green energy, and encouraging them to. So it goes deep, and I think our business is going to be a far better business, or it already is, through going through this process and having those guidelines to adhere to. So and I think that supply chain wise, there's going to be a case that, you will only be able to, some of the larger corporates will only be able to work with businesses that do have the sustainability in mind. So we're super passionate about, helping businesses tell that story and actually delivering on it as well.
Yeah. No, it's important, really important. And but on that note, Jamie, I will let you go and carry on with your day. And thank you for your time, because I think it's important that all businesses, understand some of the topics that we've discussed today, I think.
Brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much, Stelios. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's always good to speak to you. And I think, hopefully, if anybody takes anything away from this and starts to think about how they're sort of communicating their sort of sustainable credentials, then it's been very much worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for your time, Jamie.
Thank you.
I'd like to say a massive thank you to Jamie for joining me on the Ceres podcast. If you want to follow him or find out more about Crowd, then the links will be in our show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, chances are your friends will like this episode. So please share it with your friends, and hopefully they like it as much as we did too. And be sure to sign up to our mailing list. You get monthly offers. The links are going to be in our show notes. Just get on it. Thank you so much.